Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How is everybody doing today? Hope that you guys are all doing well. So, inshallah, we are ready to talk about the next section of this book. I had a meeting that ran over time, so I ended up having to choose between doing a PowerPoint versus getting in a Kahoot game. So, I figured if I had to choose and I had very little time, I would choose the Kahoot game. And I know some of you really, we always have a PowerPoint, but I had to make that choice today because I had this unexpected meeting with my department that just kind of ran over time. And I had to tell them, hey. So anyways, alhamdulillah. So we are talking about this concept of finding our best self, of preparing for not just Ramadan, but just having being productive, having that barakah. That's all out of this book. We're on chapter 4. I want to share with you part 2 of chapter 4. All right, assalamu alaikum, everybody. So we're talking about chapter 4, part 2, which is talking about the concept of being focused. Okay, being focused. This is a concept that you will battle with until the day you die, because I can tell you, even in my experiences that I have, whether it's in family, in the community, in my doctoral studies. Right now, I'm at a place in my doctoral studies where today all I did on my doctoral studies, I had to get organized to take my comprehensive exams. That's coming up in 7 months. So yesterday, I met with my advisor, and there's tons of material that I'm going to have to know. I'm going to have to focus. I'm going to have to focus and get organized for that. That was true, for example, for my candidacy defense that I took a couple of weeks ago. It was a huge exercise in being focused. That was what it was all about, learning oceans of material, preparing it, presenting it. I would say more than the material itself, the skill and the training that is required is basically the ability to be focused. This is true also of our religion, the ability to navigate life and make yourself focused despite all the distractions, that's what the dunya is. It's going to keep distracting you. Okay. It's going to keep distracting you. And this distraction, it's like part of our human weakness to keep being distracted. And no matter how knowledgeable, practicing, faithful, subhanAllah, it doesn't matter. This is something, it's like a fish in the sea, like the water is always going to be there. Those distractions are always going to be there, and we have to control ourselves. We have to learn to overcome all of those things, okay? And yes, it's true. Some people have easier lives than others. Some people may have less distractions than others, right? So your great grandparents, they didn't have to deal with television shows and social media and billboards, and they didn't have to deal with those things. They had maybe simpler lives, maybe they had different distractions that were in their way, and so it's true, some people have more distractions and less, but it is your power and it is your asset if you're able to and that is very powerful if you learn to strengthen that muscle, because like I said, it is a struggle. You will be faced with different circumstances, as long as you're willing to challenge yourself, right? In life, as long as you are up for that next challenge, as long as you're up for that next, accomplishment, whatever it is, you're always going to have to learn how to navigate that new road, that new ocean. Now, that is maybe true in a worldly sense, but also in a spiritual sense. Okay, there is something that I have seen in my life experience, which is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never makes two Ramadans exactly the same. He doesn't make two, he usually, what he does from my experience is, once you've achieved one test in your life, once you have overcome and championed this one thing, and you think, mashallah, this has become finally easy for me. It's not that he's doing this with a good intention in this journey of life, but then you will see that there's a different challenge to navigate. Okay. How do you navigate all this? Part of that process is the ability to focus. So for example, there might have been a time in my life, perhaps my daughter is going through this, in her life, but there might have been a time in my life where wearing the hijab was like my biggest challenge. Maybe when I was in middle school, maybe in high school, maybe my biggest challenge that I had to, try to meet is perhaps wearing my hijab, in that environment or whatever it is. And I could not imagine at that moment that there would be a bigger challenge or that I would be tested in any other way. But while I was struggling and learning, and growing in my faith and my determination, Iman, there were so many things happening that I didn't realize were happening. I was strengthening myself and I was able to focus on my intention, on pleasing Allah, on this muscle of really working towards my goal, right? Putting faith into action. And then what happens, just like in an obstacle course, once you perhaps get to the point where that is something that you've mastered, then it is very possible that the next journey will open up and it's a different thing that might be now an opportunity of a challenge. You see what I'm saying? So same thing with, sometimes I feel like, subhanAllah, I look at my Ramadans when I was growing up, like in my parents' home, I was just, the happy-go-lucky single, young girl. And that time, maybe the challenge was, okay, praying 20 rakats of Tarawih, making it to the masjid, doing this. And then, and that was like my happy place, that was okay. So I did that. But then when you have little babies at home, suddenly there's a new challenge because now you have, you already know how to go to the masjid and pray Tarawih and do all that. But now you have a bunch of little babies that have their own schedules and they have their own needs. And now it's a new challenge, right? Because you have a different set of playing cards now that you have to deal with. So my point is, in life, whether it's in our spiritual path or in our dunya matters, we're always going to be challenged. And if you are on the path to self-development in any road of life, dunya or akhirah, spiritual or dunya, or what am I saying? Okay, dunya or in your deen, those challenges have, the partial success of that is the ability to focus. What does that mean? I mean, what does it mean to focus? It's keeping on getting yourself back on the right track. Yeah. So, if you're going, from point A to point B, you're on some road trip, you're going from here to Dallas or Chicago. And even if you get off of the road with a wrong exit, or even if you get gas, or you have to stop and grab a meal or stop for your salah, you get back on that main road. You don't just say, okay, well, there's a Buc-ee's. That's pretty cool. And then after the Buc-ee's, you're like, wait a second, that is the most awesome forest ever. I'm just going to go stop there, and just, hang out in the forest and then go to a different town or, and yet we do that sometimes in our life without realizing it. We kind of get off track, right? And so, but if our goal is to get to Chicago or to get to Dallas, what we have to do is, even though we get off, it's normal. You're going to have to take a restroom break, get a gas break. Some of that's normal, but we always have to get back on that main road. That's what matters, right? So even if it took an extra 2 hours, okay, even if it took whatever, or maybe you did kind of really go astray and go to the wrong town, the right thing in order to get to that destination would be to get right back on and go to our final destination. And so this concept of focusing is related with being productive, because the very definition of productivity is the ability to achieve your goals, right? So all of these things are related with each other. I feel very passionate about this because it is a daily struggle, for me, because we have to constantly reassess what our current goals are. What is our current definition of productivity, right? Because the Mona who is maybe 18 has a different list, a different to-do list than the Mona who's 23 or 38 or 40 or whatever. Like I'm at a different, so you have to assess what it is that you need to get done. And you will only get that done if you're focused enough, right? If you're focused enough. So for example, if your focus for your spirituality is accomplishing your 5 daily prayers, that would be a pretty important central focus, right? But you do pretty much have to be focused to accomplish that, because what if you go out and it's a weekend and you're going shopping for the next wedding party, and you know how it is when, I mean, if you're shopping for like an outfit or shoes, I mean, sometimes it could just take, you lose track of the time, you know, and then you go to one store, you think you're going to one store, and then you end up, you know, somebody calls you, oh, look at this other store, da 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 da, or, you know, the lady's like, no, we don't have this size. And then the time just flies, right? Or, you have one sport after another activity or whatever. And so just sometimes just the concept of accomplishing your 5 daily prayers, you have to stay focused. You have to say, you know what, no matter what I do in this day, I'm going to go back. And even if it's on a parking lot, I'm going to make sure that I prayed. I'm going to time myself so that I have my wudu. I'm going to pray at the top of the, time. So I don't have to worry about it, whatever. But that does require some focus. Otherwise, time is just going to pass, right? Let's take a quick look at what the author has to say. And there's a Kahoot question today about this point that he talks about, and he mentions on page 139 that the concept of focusing can be applied inwardly and outwardly. So he says, one type of focusing is the ability to be self-aware and focus on your inner thoughts and reflections. Let me tell you something very personal, I guess. An experience that I have is because I have found that I'm a certain kind of person, and I do experience things on a variety of levels. And so one of the experiences that I may have, is like, let's say I have a mental experience of something, right? But I also might have like an emotional experience, right? I may also have, whatever, like, material experience or physical experience, whatever. And so sometimes we don't even realize what you're experiencing. And so when he talked about the ability to be self-aware and focus on your inner thoughts and reflections, sometimes you are aware, and sometimes it's a little bit of a mystery. Like it takes some digging to be aware, to be self-aware of what it is that you're experiencing. And it is not against Islam. In fact, it is going to help a person to be very deeply aware of what it is that they're experiencing. We in our religion, we don't deny our needs and our wants. We don't deny who we are. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never denies. He never denies the human experience. And we see that throughout our Quran, through our Islamic studies. He is very frank. He's very straightforward. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't hide things. And people get confused. People sometimes get confused that for example, a feeling, okay, anger. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala notice something in the Quran. It never says, don't be angry. It says to those who control their anger, or those who, sometimes it's misinterpreted as those who repress their anger, those who contain their anger, but it never says don't be angry, right? Because we are going to experience anger. I mean, yes, we have to control for our own, like for our good, for our own good and other people's good. It's good to, really have a good temperament. It's good to, to really, what's the word? Like, you don't want to, certainly you don't want to be like an angry person, but to say that you never experience anger is almost inhumane, because there's times when you should be angry, right? And we've talked about this in our class. Like if you just see some sort of a violation happen on front of you, like if there's like a hit and run accident and the person just leaves and doesn't, do their duties or whatever, then we know that I should be angry that, somebody just came and just ran into somebody's car or my car and just left the scene. In that case, I should be angry, because that is the sort of anger that has to do with injustice, right? So, but my point is that we experience things, right? We experience things, even our iman itself, that is an experience, right? Having faith, having self-awareness, whether that goes up or down, is an experience. I'm just going to check what my son wants. I'm so sorry, because I'm managing a couple of rides and carpools and things like that. So there was some confusion there. Back to what I was saying. Okay, so we were talking about this concept of focusing, right? Being self-aware. So So we have to be very self-aware. And looking at the time right now, one point I want to get in is that one thing that helps me to be self-aware is to write it down. Okay. And there was a time when we used to write things on paper and pen. And if that is your best friend with your colored pens and markers, use it. Sometimes I'll use my phone. Sometimes if it's a laptop kind of a day, I will pull up Word documents. But on a productive day, I may not do this every single day, but what I have found is that on a productive day to focus, to help me focus, I will have a few documents that I open, and one of them will be about my self-awareness of what I'm experiencing. Whether that's emotionally or mentally or whatever, you can call it journaling. It's like an outpour. Another document will be everything that I need to get done. Okay. Nowadays, I also have another document, which is gratitude or self acknowledgement. And I will literally sometimes have these 3 documents going before I even open up my work to do. And so this self-awareness, and the reason with the self-awareness that it's really important is sometimes, alhamdulillah, if you have a simple life, great, you know, it might be easy for you to figure out how you're feeling. But sometimes, you know, you might have a lot of different things going on and you're trying to kind of figure out like what, you know, what is going on? Like what is it? Like, why do I feel, you know, the way I feel right now? You know, is there something that was left undone? You know, is there something I need to do? You know, have I accomplished the goals that I had? You know, why am I where I am? And so sometimes just having that self-awareness is really the inner awareness. It's going to help you to get yourself focused so that you can be productive for yourself and others. So this is something that is definitely very true. What he mentions on page also 139 is the ability to focus on others, okay, and on your relationships using empathy. So one thing that you could notice is that, or at least that I noticed between generations, is the more and more generations that are behind us, they had this ability to focus or to pay attention to the needs of others. Whereas I observe that the generations perhaps that I'm in, or the generations that are coming up, sometimes what happens is this child or this youth is not able to think about anything outside of themselves. Like they can't think about the elder or the neighbor or the community person. And sometimes, you know, this inability to focus on others, it's tied in with their just ability to focus in general. So that's just something to consider, which he mentions. And he also mentions a third type, which, I mean, I would categorize number 2 and 3 together, but what he says is the ability to be aware of our environment and the wider world that we live in. He calls that a concept of focus as well. And so this is just, you know, all on page 139. He has a formula in order to help people achieve focus more. And it has like 2 parts to it. On the Kahoot, I have a little bit of this. So he says that in order to help your mind focus, you need to disconnect and simplify. This is his, you know, version of advice. Okay. And so when we talk about disconnection, okay, disconnection. So in general, I will try to summarize this because looking at the time, our time is really running low. The concept that he's talking about with regards to disconnection, there's other ways to kind of discuss this concept. And that is, and we saw that in the wheel, and those of you that saw like the Prophet's routine, daily routine, the recommended routine, it sometimes is dividing your time between different things. And one of those things is having a time of solitude. Okay, another one may be a time when you are with, you know, your basic family and the people that you need to be with. Another part of your day might be with the community, right? And so if you divide your time properly, then you are connected appropriately with the right, you know, you're connected appropriately. And so sometimes what happens is we are not in a situation, or we don't give ourselves that reflective time. There's a question on the Kahoot today about reflective time, right? So for example, if you wake up and you pray the Tahajjud or Qiyam, this is automatically a reflective time. Or during your day, if you pull yourself aside and just give yourself, you know, some time to reflect and do adhkar. These are reflective times, right? And then there's other parts of the day where you're involved in school or work, and that's part of your livelihood. There's other parts of the day where you're more social, like at a party or at a big community event. But if we're constantly in one of these only, then we're not serving all the important parts of ourselves. So somebody who is so social, and you know, and I'm a social person, I understand this, but if you're constantly in the middle of social connections without giving yourself some self-care time, some reflective time, some disconnection time, then you can lose yourself, right? You can lose focus because you're so immersed in that environment. So that's kind of like a summary of what it is that he was saying with that. He talks about this idea of simplifying and organizing. So simplifying is being okay with simplicity, right? So, you know, at some point we realize that, you know, for example, our clothing, it might become from 50 to 100 to 200 to 300, and we're still seeking, you know, to increase our closet. Or this could be true of anything, our toys, our gadgets, whatever. There's some things that are good to keep increasing, but once you realize and you're aware that you're just increasing, you know, and then just kind of putting a pause on it and even purging, you know, and this could be true of like maybe some part of your home, like, you know, kitchen, the drawers, your desk. He talks about your desk, your space in your room. So he's talking even about the physical, you know, the physical environment that we have. Sometimes it's important just to say that's enough. You know, I have enough of this. I don't need another one. Simplifying our spaces, and this helps us simplify our minds as well. And so he talks about this concept of simplification as a path to organization, okay? And so he talks about these concepts. Let's see here what else he talks about. So I would say, and I wanted a chance today to start something which is like a dua list, but I think that we're running out of time. So we can start doing that next week, and we're gonna hop over to the Kahoot. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, inshallah, is we are gonna have a little bit of a change in this class on the timing. And that is because we're having a little bit of a shift in availability. And so instead of starting at 4:30 and finishing at 5, we are, and I hope this works for everybody, but we're gonna try starting at 5 and finishing at 5:30, which is just a half an hour shift. And I know that everyone has been so good about, yeah, now, I know that everybody, mashallah, has been so great about staying with this schedule. And so I'm really, really sorry if that's gonna really put a bummer in your day, but let's try it, inshallah, from Monday. And I will send that message on the group and put it on the website as well. So inshallah, we're gonna start, inshallah, at 5 p.m. Central Time and end at 5:30. And I hope that we don't have to change for a long, long time, inshallah. Okay, so let's take the last couple of minutes and pop over to the Kahoot. Yeah, that is one of our cats. And okay, there we go. 5370905. That's the game pin. It's just a few questions. What just happened to my game pin? And on the website, inshallah. Thank you so much. There's 9 players, and we're just gonna go ahead, 10 players. So welcome on board. Tasneem, Mayar, Faruha, Mujtadi, Rawan, Aisha, Saran, Sama, Arisa, Mariam, and Muhammad. So I think I've gone over all of the questions today. So focusing includes what? Oh, let me move this out of the way. Ability to stay on task, ability to be self-aware, ability to focus on others' needs, or all of these. What does focus include? And we discussed these today. And just give it your best try. There's no harm in it. Yes, mashallah, everybody got it right. So focusing includes all of those things. Ability to stay on task, ability to be self-aware, ability to focus on other people's needs. It's all of those things. Excellent. Faruha, Muhammad, Murtadi, Arisa, and Tasneem. All right. Number 2, true or false? It is healthy to be on media all the time. Is that healthy? Is it healthy to be on media all the time? That's false. That's false. So when I was growing up, media included like television and, you know, radio and all that. Now it's so much more. Faruha, Muhammad, Arisa, Mushtiran. We used to have to regulate how long we could watch TV and things like that. Number 3, which of the following is an example of reflective time? Praying tahajjud, being in a classroom, going shopping, attending a loud party. What's an example of a reflective time?
I know.
Yes, praying tahajjud, that is a reflective time. Very, very good, mashallah. Number 4, one technique that will help us reach our goal is to what? Add more interest in hobbies, tell everybody what we want to do, simplify, or none of these. This is the advice that the author gave us. So one technique that will help us reach our goals is what? The answer is to simplify. To simplify.
Everybody
that is what the author told us. Mommy. And number 5, true or false, making dua helps us focus. So I don't know if we talked about this exactly, but I'm going to let you use your common sense, inshallah. Yes, the answer is that is very, very true.
Mommy.
So when we make dua, that helps us focus, because that actually, you have to actually identify what it is you're making dua for. And that in itself is the majority of what it takes to focus, right? Just identifying your needs. And so you guys did an amazing job. It's 5:01.
To confuse them, add some more none of these and all of the above. And don't put them on green, put them on red or blue or something.
Mushtadi got 4 out of 5. Muhammad got 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5 also for Faruha. MashaAllah. We had amazing players today, Arisa and Aisha. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick dua. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk wal 'asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Inshallah, we'll see you March 29th, Monday.
Bye.
5 p.m. Okay, 5 p.m. What I will try to do is I might log on at 4:30 to remind you that we're starting at 5. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next time.
And if it doesn't work out for 5 o'clock for like a long time, then we're going to switch it maybe.
It's my assistant. Yeah. All right. Assalamu alaikum.